to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on the journey toward publication. I'm Rhonda Hagerman, and I write both fiction and nonfiction. I'm currently working on a series of articles for my hometown historical society.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write in multiple genres, including Christian dystopian fiction.
We like to start each episode with a segment we called What's Up? It's time to check in with one another and see where we are on our writing and in our personal lives. So, what's up, Tina?
Well, I've been working on my rewrite of Lost in the Land of the Midnight Sun, and I'm making good progress on that, and I'm also getting ready to go on vacation next week, so I'm looking forward to that. What about you, Jamie? What are you doing?
Well, I've been writing every day, which makes me happy, and I am also editing book 2 of my Somerville's saga, so I'm hopefully going to be able to launch both books 2 and 3 before the end of the year. That's a big goal. I'm excited but apprehensive. I don't like to set goals that I can't reach, so it's giving me a little jittery feeling, but it's good to aim high. What about you, Jen? What's up with you?
I apparently like to set goals that I can't reach because it seems like that's just where I'm at right now. But no, I'm good. I've been actually doing quite a bit of writing this week. We'll talk about it a little bit later about how I've been doing that writing, and just kind of wrapping summer up. My kids go back to school in less than 2 weeks, so just trying to be with them and just enjoy what we have left of summer vacation. So what about you, Rhonda?
Well, I just returned from my vacation. I went to a family reunion of people I've never met before in Connecticut, and really my first time to the East Coast, to New England, and it was fantastic. I went with my oldest daughter, and we had a really good time, and met some really interesting people.
Did you make it into Boston?
We did not go to Boston. We ended up going to Salem because we only had... There's too much fun stuff to do with the reunion. And so we really only had a couple extra hours on Sunday before we came back to Michigan. And so we just thought we'll go there, see the House of Seven Gables and some different stuff. And so we did and had some macaroons. I didn't have any macaroons, but I looked at them and took some pictures of them.
Yes, I saw them, and I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to bring it up. I was going to be your accountability.
They're too pretty. Yeah, we saw them from the window, actually, and that's what brought us in. And so I bought some for my daughter, who's a Francophile. And so anyway, we did that. But I got some really disappointing news on my trip out there because I've been telling you guys about my coloring book and about how we made the decision to go with an old book that was written with the school system in the past. And everybody was on board with that. And then all of a sudden, they called me when I was on the road where I couldn't too far to turn back and rattle anybody, where they've decided that they want to something from the beginning, start from scratch so that they can have the copyright under their own name and not have any concerns about the school system being involved. So that just added more to my plate than I thought. That was checked off of my bujo, but it's not. It's right in the center of it. So
the people that made this decision, are they the people that are going to recreate the content so they were able to make that decision, or did they just make the decision that, oh, you're going to recreate that content?
Yes.
Oh no.
It was one of those, oh, our favorite volunteer here, you don't mind doing that, right? You can understand why we think this is a good decision. So
and you
like,
said
oh,
and you agreed?
I said, oh, that sounds great. What a good idea.
Oh, Rhonda.
No, I did try to talk him out of it because really it's like recreating the wheel because the original book was fantastic. And at the moment, I don't know how we're going to redo it without literally recreating the same book. So it'll come to us, but anyway, so that's
wow. Yeah.
So we have a new topic this week, which is increasing your word count, tips and tricks. And I will be sitting back and listening because this is something I really need help with. So, hopefully you guys have a lot of great advice for all of us. So,
well, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that the first thing you have to say is, I guess you just decide you want it. I mean, I guess it's just like anything else in life. You just make a commitment. You're going to write more, right? And so then, you know, you're going to say, I don't know, you could give yourself a daily number of words that you're going to write or a weekly, but then you don't want to make it really big or something so that you totally miss and get discouraged. The ideal is that you're doing more than you were doing before you made the commitment. So if you just say, I'm going to spend 10 minutes a day writing, right? Find ways that you can honor that commitment to yourself to write more. And part of that is that by making it a small, reasonable goal, I think.
And you have to have a priorities. You know, if whatever's important to us, we make a priority in our life. So if, you know, watching a certain TV show on Tuesday night is important to you, you make the time to do it. And I just feel like if writing's a priority, then we make the time, just like anything else in our lives.
mm-hmm.
Right.
I think it's something we didn't talk about, but how do you assign value to the writing? So, you know, everybody says that you shouldn't write with the idea that you're going to make millions of dollars or something. But for some people, yes, you're writing because this is your job and you're going to make money writing. But if you don't have that as a motivator, how do you then change it into your mind into something like that favorite Tuesday night TV show? Like, is the problem that people view it as work and then they disdain doing it because it's work? Do people not feel like it's a nice Calgon bath? That they're having a fun doing it?
I don't know. I think it probably depends on who you are. I think that for me and for other writers I know you and I have had this conversation about how sometimes when it becomes work, then you're just like, oh, it's a drudgery. But I think that the opposite can be true as well, is that if it's a hobby, if you love doing it and it's just so much fun, the times that it's not fun, then you don't want to do it. And so you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to find a balance. Like, yes, writing should be a passion. It should be something that you enjoy doing, but it also should be something that you're committed to. And you just do it even when you don't want to. Put your butt in the chair and you just do it. And then, because it's not going to be always be fun. If anyone out there is listening to this or watching this and they're just starting out, you probably have this story burning in you that you've been thinking about for years. You want to write it, and you probably have this image of sitting down and writing this story, and at the end it'll be all finished and it'll be just so great. And sometimes it's like that, but majority of the time it's a job. It is something you have to commit to, and you have to put the time into it and the effort into it. But what I found is the more time I put into it, the better my writing is, the more I enjoy it because it's better, and the more I do. So really, it is like a muscle that you have to really work.
Well, it's like any kind of skill or art that the violin player can't become a good violin player unless they put in the time. An artist or a painter can't become a good painter unless they do a lot of painting. At the same time that you have to put in that work, there's a certain amount of fulfillment that you get inside when you create something as artists.
There's a prolific writer. His name is Dean Wesley Smith, and I don't know where he's hearing this, but he is saying that a lot of times academics or whatever, they will discourage a lot of writing. Oh, you'll get tired and you won't be as whatever, fill in the blank. I've never personally heard anybody tell anybody they shouldn't write a lot, but he is saying that writing is the only skill that we discourage people from practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing until it is muscle memory. If someone wants to be good at karate, we say do more karate. If someone wants to be good at basketball, we say do more free throws. So the advice should be, if you want to become a better, more prolific writer, you should write more, bottom line.
Right. And Jamie, you mentioned something about assigning value to it. I think that my children's book for the museum is an excellent example of that, because I am passionate about children learning their genealogy and local history. Those are my two probably biggest passions in my life right now. And so I want this book to be done, and I wanted it to be done already with the original book. But since that is not to be, even though I don't want to sit down and try to recreate this, I will be doing it because it is something I'm passionate about. Not just the writing itself, which I do enjoy doing, but getting information out there too.
Right. You feel like you're being helpful to people. If you're a very pragmatic person and you're a minimalist in any way and you feel everything should serve a purpose or it should not exist, it may feel like a guilty pleasure to be quote unquote wasting time writing. If you're doing a lot of like writing that you don't think is marketable, for example, you may feel like, why am I wasting my time doing all of this writing that will never be published or. But again, the bottom line is you'll never get better at writing and you'll never improve unless you're actually practicing the craft.
And speaking of practicing, I just was listening to a different podcast this morning, the Sell More Books show, and they were talking about the science behind getting up in the morning and the first thing you do is writing. Do you ladies have a time that you carve out every single day for writing, or is it kind of like whenever you can fit it in?
In theory, I do.
What do you mean? So what is it? All right, that's theory. What is reality for you?
Reality is I do it when I can, because something always messes up my schedule that I think, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. Mm-hmm. This is what time I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. It never works out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else write first?
I have some deep-seated rebellion issue against order and schedule. And so I feel like if I prescribe anything to myself, I'm just going to like blow it off, even to my own detriment, because I have psychological issues. But
that's my problem.
I am committed to writing every day, however, but it satisfies that freaky part of me that does not want to be pegged into like a little tiny box, that I have the liberty to do the writing when it feels right. Now, what's funny is that it does end up eventually becoming a routine for me, or it has become a routine for me, because, I get up, I caffeinate, I, do Bible reading, shower, all of that stuff. And then when I feel like it, I write. But it does end up becoming sort of a routine in spite of myself. As long as I'm not telling myself I have to write from 10 to 11 every day, I'll probably from 10 to 11 every day, because I'm committed to making sure it happens. And, if it's sit down and write or wash these dishes, guess which I'm picking?
The dishes, of course.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then the flip side of that, I do like having a schedule, and I do try to write. I do write about an hour for writing in my bujo to do on a daily basis. But to be honest with you, if something else bleeds into that time, I do put the writing aside, and I need to stop doing that. I need to make that as much of a priority as, whatever it is that's filling that time.
I also don't have a set time that I write, which I kind of would like to do that. Unlike Jamie, I'm kind of more of an order person, I think, as far as like creativity goes. Like I would like to have more like of an order of when I'm going to do it and how I'm going to do it. But there are things I think that we each one of us probably do to get ourselves, even though it's not the same time every day, but we get ourselves into that mindset so that we can get more words out. I know that there's music that I listen to that has brainwave, like binary beats and things in it, and that really helps me. I just found it on YouTube. I think a lot of you ladies, you use the same stuff, and that helps me to be able to have every time that turns on, all of a sudden it's like, okay, my mind is serious, and boom, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna write. So.
Yeah, and I think Tina had talked about conditioning yourself in several ways. So not just to what, Tina, like where you're sitting, like sit in the same place every time.
And sit in the same place, listen to the same music, try to do it at the same time of day, just to make it, when we have children and children have struggle going to bed at night, the doctors will always say, well, you need a routine, and needs to be the same every night. And so then once they go through that routine, then their brain will say, okay, it's time to go to sleep. And I think it's the same thing. When you go through whatever your routine is, for when you're going to write. You try to keep it consistent. Even, scientists that study studying, like for school, say if you're going to study with a piece of spearmint gum in your mouth, have a piece of spearmint gum in your mouth when you take the test.
Yeah.
Because it will trigger that part of your brain that was remembering what you were studying. So it's kind of the same concept. Your brain is going to respond to the triggers of, okay, now I'm putting on my music. Now I'm sitting in my designated spot. For me, something about being in a word sprint with you guys, like in Discord, and hearing your little keyboards tapping, I get really like, okay, it's time to write.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good trick because then you start to feel like something is missing. You put on that music, it's like, oh, I have to be writing. And it's a really, really cool way to, I guess, condition yourself, right? Like you condition yourself that this is what's going on. We're writing now, right?
And in that same vein, I can't listen to Toby Mac music anymore because you listen to it when I'm walking on the treadmill. And I have this whole playlist, and now when I hear it, like my body's like, where's the treadmill?
My body is like, never, where is the treadmill? Unless it's like an avoidance strategy. Oh no, it's over there.
All right, so we're in the same place every time. We're listening to music. We've got kind of like that system. So that's getting us in the mind frame of writing. But how do we get more words out? That's what we're talking about today specifically, right? So what are some things that you guys do to get your word count up?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that worked for me is when I got the new computer, I did not put Facebook on my computer intentionally because it's surprising how much I get on Facebook just to communicate with people. And sometimes it's a hassle not to have it on here, but it has really saved so much time. Just that one program, not having it around me all the time.
I know I have heard similar advice that you should have a dedicated writing computer that just does not even have internet capability on it. I like this advice. I'm a little worried about it not running Scrivener. Like, can you get such a machine? I mean, I suppose you could just turn your Wi-Fi off or something, but the temptation is still there to turn it back on. Anyway, the ideal is you have a computer that's dedicated only for writing. It's not even connected to the internet. So that's good advice, I think, Rhonda.
There's also apps you can download on your computer, and you can say, I'm going to be writing from this time to this time, and the app will block your internet from working, any notifications from coming through, and you being able to do that stuff.
That's great advice too.
I think another trick is to just try not to be an editor while you're trying to be a writer.
Yes.
Like let the creative just flow and let the story get onto the paper and go back and worry about fixing it later. It's really hard actually with the spell check under red squiggle. It's so visually distracting to me that I have a hard time ignoring it. But the first time I did National Novel Writing Month was the first time I was introduced to this. It's NaNoWriMo for short. It's in November every year. You write 50,000 words in 30 days. It's a little bit crazy and intense, but they talk a lot about locking up your inner editor and just getting the story onto the paper. Jen, you had a good quote about that, didn't you?
Yeah, Jodi Picoult had said, I've heard it many different ways, but Tina found it as Jodi Picoult saying it, that you can always edit a bad page. You can't edit a blank page. So just get the words out there. Just do some writing. Like that's like our theory was sprinting. Just sprint. Don't stop for editing. And Rhonda, you said once before that that's why you handwrite sometimes, is because you can't turn your editor off. So if you handwrite it, that you're kind of accessing a different part of your brain so that you aren't, the editor is like locked up and you're just getting your creative out. I think that's a great idea. I've done that before too. When I've been blocked, I get out paper and a pen and I just start writing, and it's just like a different part of your brain that just seems to come out when you do that.
I'll probably be doing a lot of writing next week on pen and paper because we were asked not to be using electronic devices in our little kind of a family reunion / birthday party kind of thing.
Well, I mean, we talked a couple times about writing sprints. writing sprints is writing for a set amount of time. So you just start the timer. Now, when you start, it's kind of fun to try and be the one who writes the most in the amount of time. There's several methods. The Pomodoro method is usually what we do, 25 minutes with a 10-minute break. It's important you utilize the breaks. There's scientific blah, blah, blah about why that particular set of times is good. Jen can link that maybe in the podcast. So learn about the Pomodoro method or other sprinting methods, and your writing group can do a Discord chat just like this one and do some writing sprints to help you just get that word count up every day. Practice, practice.
Right.
And you can also turn off your spell check on Word.
Oh, that's a good tip.
Yeah, if that squiggly red line is irritating you and making you go back, turn it off.
Right. So I know we're kind of a mixed group here, but do any of you non-outliners, do you ever try using an outline if you're having a word count issue?
Well, Jen is an outliner.
Right, but two of you are.
I have tried that, and I find that to be more of a good, if I don't know what to write, to look at the outline and use that. I guess then that would help my word count, I guess by default, because at least it's kind of like someone giving you a writing prompt, like the exercise that we do before this podcast. You have prepared your writing prompts in advance. Here they are in this outline. Chapter 3 is supposed to be about Daisy finding her lost dog or whatever. So now you know that today you're going to sit in the same place at the same rough time with the same music, and you're going to write about Daisy finding her dog, and you're not going to edit it while you write it.
I wouldn't say I'm not an outliner. I would say I'm a loose outliner because I just do the main points. And so I wouldn't have like all the sub points underneath the main points. And I use an outline of the heroes. What I'm using for this book I'm writing is the hero's journey. And there's like all these stops along the way on the hero's journey. So I'm kind of using both things simultaneously. And so if I get stuck, I like to take out my hero's journey thing and see where my character is, and then look at my main points and figure out, okay, what needs to happen now.
My latest piece of advice for getting out words is something that I've just started doing. So I am no expert by any means at it, but I'm very excited about it. Is last summer, I started dictating a short story, and it just came out so great. Like it came out quickly and I really enjoyed it, but then I got away from it because it was a software for my phone and app from Dragon. And I do like the app, but it's $15 a month and I'm a cheapskate. But for $15 a month, it was pretty cool that I could do it on my phone, and then it would transfer into Word into my Dropbox, which was pretty amazing. But I got away from it. Recently, I bought a couple different books that are to help you with that. One of them is Foolproof Dictation by Christopher Downing. It's a fairly new book. And of course, the standard out there is How to Train Your Dragon by Scott Baker. And with those two books, I also purchased the regular Dragon on the premium, naturally speaking, not the home. The home does not have what you need to do it. And on top of that, I purchased this little baby. Can you see this? It's a little Sony digital recorder and a little Sony little microphone. All right, so there's all the background. The first day I used it, I clipped it onto me and I started doing dishes, because that's one of the things that Christopher Downing says, is you have to do something that will stop you from trying to edit yourself. So he walks around and flips a coin or whatever. I just started doing dishes, something that's brainless I can do without having to think about what I'm doing. And within an hour, and I was going very slow, and my kids were interrupting me all the time, and I got 1,800 words out without even trying.
Wow.
And that was with really, I think I only wrote for like 20 minutes, it felt like. I dictated. The other day I did it while I was driving from here to just down to, I think, like Meijer, which is kind of like Walmart, and back. And I got another 1,200 words in without even thinking about it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So there's a huge learning curve. with dictation, and there is a lot of editing, but when I sprint, there's a lot of editing. So this is something that if you are really looking to get your word count up and you want to try something different, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's definitely something that I see really pushing my writing forward at a much quicker pace than what I have been doing, which brings me back to the outline. The reason why I kind of jumped ahead to Dragon right now is because we're talking about outlines. And if you're going to dictate, having a good outline helps, because you just look at what you're going to do and then you just start doing it. And it's there's something about talking something instead of typing it. It uses a different part of your brain, and it just helps me. So that's my number one tip for today, is to try dictation.
Wow.
Well, and I think that's a really good option for people who get carpal tunnel, or people who have like arthritis in their hands. And so maybe writing is actually physically painful for them. That might be a really good alternative for those folks as well.
And my plan is to do it while I'm on the treadmill too, is I want to start doing it. Well, I don't want to sit down when I dictate. Okay. Maybe at least stand up, Jamie. But so that I'm not sitting down all the time, because I don't want to end up with medical conditions because I'm a writer. So many writers do, with either carpal tunnel or back problems, or so try to be proactive.
Right.
And I think that whether you're an outliner or not, Ernest Hemingway had some pretty good advice. He said that he had learned to never empty the well of his writing, or never write until he was out of ideas, but always to stop when there was still something there in the deep part of the well, and let it refill at night from the springs that fed it. That was a very botched version of a quote that he had. But the idea is, don't write yourself dry. Right. So that when you sit down to write the next day, you have something to start with. That's
very encouraging, because I wrote, a lot of times I'll be like, okay, well, that's 500 words and I have life to do. And I'll be frustrated that I didn't finish the story that I had started or whatever. And I guess it's encouraging, yet it is something that I have discovered. It's easy to go and pick back up. Oh, okay, I remember I left, little Timmy hanging from a cliff or something. And so now I have to send Lassie to go, whatever. The point is, poor Timmy goes through so much. And anyway, so yeah, I found that advice to be very, very good advice and true.
I think it's great advice. Yeah. I just don't know that I can follow it. I'm terrible. If I'm in the middle of writing and it's like really coming and it's really good, like I can't, my kids are going to starve because I just can't bring myself to stop. But that's something I need to work on, because I think it does make it easier than the next time I pick it up. But I have a hard time following that one.
And Jamie, just a bit of encouragement for you. When I was reading quotes from Ernest Hemingway, his average was 500 words a day. And if he only did 230, he wasn't worried about it. He was happy. And he said if he got more than 1,000, that was an excellent, excellent day. That was not a normal day for him. So there's nothing wrong with 500 words a day.
Yeah, me and Hemingway, we're the same.
That's right. I think you're better than Hemingway.
I do too, to be honest. I'm cuter.
You're definitely cuter.
I'm for sure more alive.
Yeah. I was going to say more sober, but I guess he's pretty sober now, right?
Yeah.
But I guess the bottom line is, like, you just got to get your bottom in the seat, or or standing if you're dictating. I mean, but you just got to do it. And the more you do that, and the more you make yourself write, then the more writing you're going to produce. That's how it works, because it's just like the more you work out, the more muscle you're going to have. The more you write, the more writing you're going to get. And it comes right down to, if you're waiting for inspiration, then you're not a writer, you're a waiter. So what do you want to be, a waiter or a writer? So just sit down and do it.
Very good.
Wonderful. Okay. Anything else about getting more words in? Are you guys all set? Should we move on?
I'm ready to go write. So let's do this.
Okay. All right. So it is time for the fitting of the backs. This is how our feedback works. Here on the podcast, we submit a raw, fresh, unedited piece. This helps us develop a safe community for receiving criticism, because we each take turns being utterly vulnerable. Because these are new, unedited works, we do not give criticism, only encouragement. Now, next week, let me do that later. Okay, so This is how our writing assignment worked. We give each other 15 minutes before we start the podcast. And today what we did is we each started with the same sentence. And then we continued writing for 15 minutes from there. So, who would like to read theirs first?
I'll go first.
Before you talk, before you start, Jen.
Okay.
If we get this posted before the deadline, this actually happens to be a contest on the Writer's Digest website. It's free to enter. You take the same first sentence that we have. Everybody enters with the same, and then they pick a winner. I don't remember what you win. Bottom line is, if this podcast airs before that, you should go to Writer's Digest and see if you could also enter. So go.
I think it'd be fun for our whole community to do it.
Yeah,
together.
I think so.
There's no way I'm winning. That's why I want to go first. But yes, I think our community should do this because I do think it's awesome. All right, the sentence was, or the beginning of the sentence was, as she trudged down the alley, Sinessa saw, and then blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's mine. As she trudged down the alley, Sinessa saw a small, flat object. Its metallic outer shell glistened in what little sunlight filtered down between the two skyscrapers, and the reflecting light seemed like a beacon of hope to her, beckoning her to come near. She looked to her right and to her left, uncertain if she were in some sort of dream state or if she was in fact about to step down a dark alley to investigate the item. As she drew closer and closer, she tried to tell herself that her eyes were playing tricks on her. This couldn't possibly be what she thought it was. The odds of finding one of these, just abandoned in the middle of the city, were like 1,000,000 to 1. She reasoned that she had spent too much time dreaming of a new one, or at least a different one, that her mind must have created this out of thin air to keep her from going crazy, or in order to send her completely into crazy land. But despite her rabid reasoning and logical musings, it was truth. There, as real as day, lay a brand new Lenovo Yoga laptop.
I knew it.
Sinessa picked up the machine and marveled at its lightweight feel. She flipped it open and it immediately booted, something Sinessa hadn't seen in a PC in years. It was like a dream, but it was real, and it was in her hands. She closed the lid and smiled. Then she lifted the laptop over her head and threw it to the asphalt at her feet, shattering the silver piece of hardware into hundreds of pieces of metal, plastic, and glass. She had been lured in by its magic before. She wasn't about to be fooled again.
Oh,
Done.
that was
very personal for you, Jennifer.
Did it feel good to write that, Jen?
It was so lethargic, I can't even tell you. All right, just a little bit of background information. I had computer issues for weeks now, and again today, my brand new expensive laptop, which model will go unmentioned, has stopped charging. So we're really hoping that we finish this broadcast before it decides to not be charged anymore. So I was a little angry at the beginning of our podcast when it was writing time, and I feel much better now. I feel like I've gone through therapy.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, we're so happy we could be here for you.
Thank you. All right, next.
All right, I'll go since I didn't get to the end.
Aw.
I know, saddish radish. Oh, maybe I won't go because I don't know where my document is. Someone else go.
I'm ready. I can go.
Go for it.
Okay. Let me just get my mouse here because I'm going to have to scroll. As she trudged down the alley, Sinessa saw a small boy sitting against the wall with his knees pulled up to his chest. The pants he wore only reached his shins and hung in tattered shreds. His t-shirt was a dark brown color, but Sinessa suspected that it had once been white. His feet, black from being unwashed, were bare. His arms were crossed on top of his knees with his head resting on them. He stared at Sinessa with a blank stare through filmy eyes. Sinessa ran to him and pulled him to his feet. "Come on, we got to get out of here." She realized that her anxiousness had caused her to shout, and the boy flinched at her words. "Sorry," she said in a softer tone. "We have to go now." The boy swayed on his feet. He obviously did not have the strength to walk, much less run. Sinessa squatted down and lifted him onto her back, hanging onto his legs just below the knees while he wrapped his arms around her neck. Then she ran. To any who were watching, they were a sorry sight. A spindly-legged little girl with long strawberry blonde hair and covered in freckles, running through the back alley of Central City with a small creature on her back. At the speed she was running, it was hard to tell exactly what the creature was, except at the times he would lift his head up and reveal the face of a small child beneath the mop of matted hair that stuck up in all directions. Those that did recognize him as a boy gasped in shock, hurried inside their homes, and locked all the doors and windows. Some of the braver ones peeked out from behind shutters and blinds to try and witness the fate of the boy. Those looking for the excitement of a struggle between life and death were not disappointed, for soon the rovers came. They rolled along on what resembled giant silver ball bearings, only they were the size of a large tank. The robotic heads that sat upon these balls were also round and silver and turned in all directions independent of the body, which had the ability to change directions in an instant. They came from all directions, zeroing in on the boy through the use of satellite images. The usual GPS signal wouldn't work since the girl's GPS chip had been surgically removed. The robots were searching for members of the resistance like the girl, just as much as the rogue male children.
What? That's it? That's all I
Wow.
That's
get?
it. I
Wait,
ran
there
out of
has
time.
to be more.
That was really good. That is the most science fiction
Really good.
I ran
Yeah.
out of time, so
The best line.
it actually says child because I didn't have time to write REN.
The best
Wow,
line
you're really a rule
was
follower.
was it the rogue male child? Because it's one line, but it gave us so much information about the society. Love, love, love.
This was amazing. I love the matted hair, like just the descriptive. You have the descriptive stuff like bang on. I mean, the description of the piggyback, like, you know, did you ever have to write something? You're just like, how do I write this fiddly thing? How do I write somebody giving someone else a piggyback ride? And it just like obviously had to just flow out of you because you only had 15 minutes. You couldn't sit there and think about it for 15 minutes like I would have. Very awesome. That's so good and so poetic.
Yes, absolutely.
Really good. That's a really, you could finish up that story and maybe submit it to the science fiction world. Like, you don't have to write the whole book to have it be a complete piece and get it published.
Right.
Hope you realize that.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for
That's a good point.
liking my story.
It's very good. Okay, well, now I have to follow that. Rhonda, are you sure you don't want to be next?
Oh, it does. If you're ready, go ahead.
I'm just kidding. I just don't want to follow Tina because it's so good.
Oh.
All right. So as she trudged down the alley, Sinessa saw a small shining object. Jen, it is not a laptop, but anyway. She drew closer. Both of ours is going to be rejected, like in the first read-through. Same thing. Everybody says a shining object. Reject, reject.
You don't know.
Anyway, yes. She drew closer and realized it was a gem, bright blue in color. Could this be the stone from her sister's ring? And here's a nod to the stupid name. Had Barefa been in this alley? I don't know. I guess we're going with the stupid name theme in this story. Instinct appeared to have gotten a hold of Muskie. He sniffed at each of the large metal dumpsters and howled. A sick feeling formed in Sinessa's stomach as she caught a whiff of the dumpster's contents, dead, discarded things. She shivered as she realized her sister might have been left in one of those large metal crypts. But Muskie moved on after only a cursory sniff around the base of them, trotting over to a locked gate and putting his front paws up on it. Good boy, Sinessa encouraged, rubbing the dog's head. Her hand recoiled when she felt the scar tissue there, and at the same time Muskie gave out a little yelp. Sorry, boy. Hope I didn't hurt you, she replied. To who? I don't know, whatever. Muskie licked her hand as though in acceptance of her apology. You think she's in there? Sinessa asked the dog. She hooked her fingers through the chain link and assessed the low-slung concrete building behind it. There was no signage. There were no windows. Immediately, Sinessa remembered the fancy cars Barefa's boyfriend was always showing up in, and the phrase chop shop came to her mind. She had only a vague idea of what went on in such places, had in fact picked up the terminology from television shows she watched with her grandfather. Nevertheless, she was sure this was the next place she needed to look for her sister. Come on, boy, she said to Muskie, and turned to make her way back up the alley. She sucked her breath in. There, standing feet apart, arms crossed, was Officer Delaney. What are you doing here, kid? He asked. Looking for my sister. What brought you here looking? He took a few steps closer and squatted to make himself eye level with Sinessa. She hated when grown-ups did this. It only reminded her of the vast physical difference between her world and theirs, a world she knew she was more than ready to be a part of, if only they would allow it. She sighed. I saw one of her creepy boyfriend's friends come this way. Of course, it was hard tracking him being in a car and all, but Muskie here made sure we didn't lose him. Again, she patted the dog, careful this time to avoid his scars. I found this, she said, extending her hand to reveal the sparkling blue stone. Where did you find this? Delaney asked. It's Barefa's. I'm sure of it. The end.
Oh, you've got to finish this.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
I have to know why
Poor
that
Muskie.
stone was for hers.
I love Muskie.
He's got scars on his head.
I know. I wonder why.
I want.
You don't know? I need to know this.
So do I.
I can't wait till you write it
Oh,
and you
my
find out
word.
too. That's
Only
awesome.
Panthers will understand
Find out
that.
why.
What's that, Rhonda?
I said you need to finish the story so we can find out. We all can
Yes.
find out why.
Yes, and Tina, you're right. Like when you're pantsing, you're like, oh, a scary-headed dog. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then-
Wonder where that came from.
oh my goodness. Yes, fun.
Like, I
Thanks,
had no
guys.
idea there were going to be robots in my story. I just, like, okay, there was a boy. What about him?
Yeah, and they're big maniacal evil BB-8s, it sounds like.
That's what I was thinking too.
But stainless steel. They're probably very hard to keep clean. They probably have fingerprints all over. Need some barkeeper's friend. Maybe that's like what kills them. If you scrub them with barkeeper's friend, they dissolve. I'm sorry. I'm totally being weird. Were you trying to talk, Rhonda? Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you, are you going to finish that?
I think
Because
I
I'm really
might.
concerned about the dog.
I know. I love this dog already, and he's not even very old. He's only like an hour old.
And I don't trust the cop. Just saying.
Yeah.
Me either.
That's
I
interesting.
think he's the bad guy. I think he's, like, going to take the thing from her and lock her up somewhere.
That's really interesting. That's not what I was thinking at all. I was thinking this was kind of like a Turner and Hooch, except with a girl instead of a dog. And so this cop is like, "What's up, Columbo kid? Help me solve this case." You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Oh,
she
I like
doesn't trust him. So I like that you guys don't
Oh.
trust him because he does not trust him. He's in the world of adults, right? So
Right.
like, whatever.
We picked up on her distrust.
Yay! Happy me.
Awesome.
Okay, so Rhonda, what do you got? You write longhand, don't you?
I do.
Jen, did you write longhand today because your computer was being weird?
No, I actually did Google Docs. Aren't you
Gotcha.
proud of me? It's the
Wow.
only thing I get to open on my old laptop.
Well, good. Because if you had gotten that many words handwriting it, I was not going to be very happy. I was going to be really jealous.
Okay, so let's hear, Rhonda. What do you got?
All right. Remember what you said when you started writing yours? Okay. As she trudged down the alley, Sinessa saw a small, shiny object. Exactly.
Tina's the winner. Tina's story wins, hands down.
That's right. Small, shiny object exactly where her foot was to fall next. Being ever curious, she didn't hesitate to pick it up. Oh, a dime. A dime is what her favorite comic book costs. My lucky day. She flipped the coin into the air with her thumb, clumsily caught it, and then jammed it into the tiny pocket on her apron. Oops, she said aloud, realizing she was still wearing her house apron. Sugar beets. She meant to take that off. Oh well, she thought. Now that I can buy the new issue of my story, I'll just go home anyway. Josie will understand. She dug a dime out of her pocket and glanced at the robed figure on it as she headed toward the store. Mercury must have had such an exciting life, flying around all the time, giving people messages. I wish I could do that. Vanessa put the coin back in her pocket. She pulled the blonde locks above her ears straight out, then straight back. I can fly like Mercury now. She jogged down the block, using her golden wings to guide her. She veered up Josie's steps, stretching out her arms and making the turn like she saw Lucky Lindy's plane do. That's as far as I got.
Wow.
Oh, I love it.
It's
You're in the setting and the day or whatever from the minute she's wearing an apron, and then she is able to buy a comic book for a dime. So I totally know where I am and what time I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the beginning of Up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very sweet. I love that. And I love that she's imagining she can fly like Mercury because she has wild hair.
Well, you were describing, how do you describe someone going piggyback? Well, I was trying to figure out, you're a kid like this, pretending like you're flying with your hair. How do you describe that?
I know. You did good because.
Well, thank you.
You were what? You were inspired?
Yeah, I was inspired by my, do you remember the newspaper article I wrote? The article I wasn't happy about, and then I rewrote another article. Well, on my really long drive last week, I actually rewrote it in my head. So I think I will probably submit that to you guys next week so you can read it. But anyway, it was more of a story instead of just an article. And so I was kind of inspired, this little girl being my pilot as a little girl. So, I mean, that's not going to be part of the article. But
I love her.
Cool. Yeah, I love her too. And she's just like, oh, well, if I can have a new book, my friend will totally understand why I'm ditching her.
Right, because they're best friends. They do that kind of, they get it.
Yeah, that's very cute. I know. I love how raw and real my daughter is with her little friends and always has been. They're 7 years old, but they fight like sisters, right? And I'll just be like, well, you're just mean. Adult women just do not, why don't we anymore? Just call people out well, you're just being mean and work it out, Anyway.
Right.
I digress.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of am still like that. Okay. All right. So let's transition to the accountability corner.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is where we're going to check in with each other and make sure we're moving forward on our journey toward publication. Of course, there are many paths along this journey, and each looks a little different. And we all know that everyone moves at his or her own pace. So in our group, we each set our own SMART goals that are significant, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Then we talk about them here on the podcast. So, who wants to go first? Jen.
All right. So this week I have 3 different goals, 3 different areas of my writing career. First of all, I am still writing the contemporary romance. So my goal is to try to get, last week I said 5,000, but I got 3,000 this week. So my goal is to do another 3,000 words in that contemporary romance. Editing, I'm still editing on the historical romance with the character Phoebe. So I want to be able to fully edit 2 full chapters. And then for promotion and marketing, it looks as if I will have my book cover photos taken before we podcast again next week.
Yay!
So as long as everything goes well, I'll be able to talk about that next week. So 3 areas: writing, editing, and marketing. Those are the things I'm going to be doing this next week. What about you, Rhonda?
Me? Well, I did not reach my goal last week. I made it a very small goal, and that was to get my blog live. And I didn't realize how little free time I was going to have this weekend. They had our days packed full of things to do. And I wanted to do them all. So I made the choice to not accomplish my goal, but I feel bad because I really did intend to get it done. And actually, when we left Sunday, we were originally going to stay in Buffalo So we'd get there about like 9 o'clock, and then I was going to work on it then and drive home the rest of the way on Monday morning. Well, we decided instead to just go ahead and drive straight through. And then I thought I'll go home, sleep for a few hours, and then I'll work at my blog as soon as I get home. Well, I ended up doing the first part of that, driving home. We got home about 6 o'clock in the morning. I slept until about 10. And then I got my computer out and I looked at it and I thought, well, you know what? I'm still a little tired. And so I put my computer away, did a couple other things, and I ended up just being so tired all day, I just didn't get it done. So those are my excuses / reasons for not doing it. But I do feel bad because I did fully intend to get that done this week. So that's going to have to be my goal for this week. And as soon as I am done with this podcast today, I'm going to go and buy one of those little recorders that Jen just showed us. Hopefully she's got some sort of a commission going there. And
oh, I think I might have one I can give you, Rhonda, because I'm trying to sell it, but we have some trades that are whatever outstanding. So maybe I have one for you. I'll have to try to dig it out, okay?
Oh, okay.
And if so, I will get it to you like today. Like I will not wait or dig, or like as soon as I find it.
Yeah.
I'll make it a priority.
That'd be awesome.
But for everybody else, I will link down below the software and the actual recorder that I have, the microphone, just so anyone who's interested.
Okay. So it sounds like Jamie's going to accomplish that goal for me. And then after that, I am sitting down. I'm not going to do anything else, including cooking dinner for myself or my husband until my blog is live today. So.
Wow, good for you.
Awesome.
Well, when you put food on the line, that's a pretty big motivator.
I know, because I'm already a little bit hungry right now. So.
Supper is on the line. Well, don't get too hangry. Eat a little snackadoo to keep going. And you're still going to have to go buy a microphone thingy because this one is like a handheld. Whatever. Okay. So should I talk about my goal since I'm already flapping my...
Yes. Let's hear it.
All right. So yes, 5,000 words a week. I hit that goal last week. Hooray. That's great. And I just want to keep on keeping on. But I have a new goal because remember I said, my websites are like done-ish. I mean, I don't really expect much out of them right now. Writing Shorts is not technically live because I don't have any content up on it yet. But my author page, it basically is a place to like get linked to my Patreon and figure out where you can buy my book. So neither are really working for me yet, but they're up and running. So I don't have to really worry so much about that in this moment. So for right now, I am editing my book too and want to get, I think it's a little too much to expect I would have the whole thing done by the next time that we podcast. I'm worried about, so I suppose, I don't want to make a date. I will say I will have another whole chunk of it done, which makes sense to me, maybe not to you because of how I have it divided up into Scrivener. Right now it's like, this happens, this happens, this happens, but I don't know how that works out, how many chapters. So if I say the next chapter, it could be just like this little thing that whatever. Right. So I'm going to have another chunk of that done for sure by the next time we get together. And then I could probably be a little more, plus the 5,000 words. And then the new goal will be to be able to be more specific when I come back to the podcast so that I can give you a very clear goal. Who didn't go yet?
Tina.
What's your goal?
Well, I didn't reach my goals last week. My life's been a little bit crazy. I was just diagnosed as diabetic, and so I'm having a little bit of struggles with not feeling good, especially after I eat. Plus, I have a part-time job. Plus, I just got back from camp meeting, and I'm going on vacation next week. So things are just a little bit crazy. And also, somebody challenged. I watched a sermon online where the guy challenged people to pray for 45 minutes a day, and read your Bible for 45 minutes a day, and to do this for 9 months. To just commit to 9 months doing that. So I decided I was going to do that. So that like already ate up an hour and a half of my day. But when you're praying for 45 minutes, you end up talking to God about things that you probably normally wouldn't because you're not spending that much time. So he's been talking to me about my book. And somebody has to die. That's all I'm going to say.
In the book, right? Just clarifying.
Yes. Well, somebody. Let me rephrase that.
The FBI would like to watch our podcast.
Somebody's life has to be in the balance. That's what I want to say. So the motivation for Angelica's quest is not just going to be to get second half of the Bible back, but she has to do this in order that she said this person is not going to die.
Well, that makes sense because you had some creepy, cryptic posts on your Facebook about how there is no forgiveness of sins without the shedding of blood, which is fine because it's a scripture and everything, but just like really out of context like that, it was like, what are you going through, Tina? You know what I mean? So I'm really glad that it's about the book.
That had nothing to do with my book, really.
Oh, no.
It was more about the suffering that when you go into full-time ministry, you have to expect suffering. I was watching another thing. So anyway.
There's a whole podcast topic. Good grief.
Yeah. So my goal is to write that into what I already have written in my first, because I'm going to have to go through and I'm going to have to put it in there. Sorry, there's another mosquito. Mosquitoes are breeding in my bedroom or something.
Oh, it looked just like I'm going to have to go put it in there. Like when I get around.
There's a mosquito like flying right here. Again. Anyway, so my goal is, I'm not going to make a word count goal. I'm just going to make it my goal that I need to work on that part of the story and try to get as much written on that first act as I can. And I really need to work on my schedule and get a schedule. I need to be more like Jen. Like, what was the word you used earlier? I really liked it.
Orderly?
Ordered. Yes, I need my life to be more ordered. But I just don't see how to do that until after I get back from vacation.
Could you just repeat that really quick? You want to be more like who? I just like hearing it. No, I'm totally kidding. People that don't know me, I'm just kidding.
You know what? We should really freak out our podcast viewers and have you guys dress the same next time and have.
Oh, that would be so funny.
Do her hair just like yours.
Can you rock a bun? Can you rock a bun?
I can do my best. I'm sure I have some friends. I live in Flint. I can find somebody with fake hair that'll let me borrow it. What do they call them? Extensions or something?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Exciting
week for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, now is probably a good time to remind our listeners that we have an excellent resource available to you when you join our mailing list. In addition to never missing an episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, you get a free download of our critique cheat sheet, which will help you both give and receive critique. Go to join our mailing list and receive your free cheat sheet. And then stick around for the postcast, which is exclusive content only available to our Patreon subscribers. So if you're not yet one of our valued Patreons, click the link below and you will be granted exclusive access to our postcast. Would you ladies like to say anything else?
Join our Patreon. Become a patron. You are missing out on so much stuff. We have a really good time, and really, like, you get exclusive access to stuff no one else has read yet of ours. So you should sign up.
And our really strange, crazy personalities come out even more.
We are a whole lot less professional in the postcast. I don't know if that's
going to... Speak for yourselves, ladies.
We try to rein it in during the podcast. We try.
Okay. All right. Well, this concludes the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. Join us next week when,
another great new
we'll decide
topic.
what our topic's going to be. So until next time, may your pen be prolific, your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ.
Amen.
Amen.
Bye.